Hello and welcome back to the HSC Coach. Today we are starting NEBOSH IGC Element 8 and the topic is General Workplace Issues. Till now we have covered many hazards such as physical, chemical and biological hazards. But in the workplace there are not only the hazards, there are many daily practical issues that also become major causes of accidents. For examples, slips, trips and falls, work at height, confined space and lone working. These may look common, but they are actually the biggest causes of workplace accidents. In these sessions, we will cover slip, trips and falls, working at height, falling object, safe access and egress and confined space. By the end, you will clearly understand how to control these common workplace hazards. So, let's start the video. First question, what is the most common workplace accident? What causes it? The answer is slips, trips and falls. So let's understand this first. Now one important point you must remember, slip, trips and falls are the most common causes of workplace accidents. First, slip. What is a slip? A slip is a type of hazard. It happens when your foot loses grip. When your foot does not get proper grip on the surface, you lose control and slip. For example, a wet floor. If a person walks on a wet floor, their foot will not get proper grip and they will lose control and slip. Other examples include oil spills and polished surfaces. Let's understand with a real example. If oil is spilled on a factory floor and not clean, a worker can slip there. So now you understand what a slip is. Now let's talk about trip. What is a trip? A trip happens when your foot hits an object. For example, loose cable. Loose cable is an object. If your foot hits that cable, you will trip. Other examples include uneven surfaces and tools lying on the floor. Let's understand with a real example. A worker is walking and their foot gets stuck in a cable. Because the foot gets stuck, the worker loses balance and falls. So that is called a trip. Now let's talk about fall. What is a fall? A fall means falling from a height. For example, when you climb a ladder, you are at a height. If you fall from the ladder, that is a fall. Another example is falling from a platform. Now let's understand the causes of slips, trips and falls. Poor housekeeping is one major cause. Wet or oily surfaces are another cause. Poor lighting can also cause accidents. Uneven flooring and improper footwear are also reasons. Now the most important part, control measures. What should we do at the site? We must maintain good housekeeping. Slips should be properly managed and clean immediately. Proper lighting must be ensured. Cables should be properly managed. We can use anti-slip flooring and we must use proper safety footwear that does not slip. Remember this simple rule, if your workplace is clean, your workplace is safe. Now let's move to the next topic, which is working at height. What is working at height? Any work where there is a risk of falling from a height is called work at height. Generally, if you are working at 1.8 meter or 2 meters height or above, it is considered working at height. Examples include using a ladder to work at height above 1.8 or 2 meter, scaffolding work, roof work, that is the examples. Now let's talk about hazards of working at height. The first hazard is falling from height. The second is falling object. Object can fall from height. Another hazard is unstable surfaces. Let's understand with a real example. A worker is working at height on scaffolding without guardrails. Because there are no guardrails, the worker slips and falls down. So this is a clear example of working at height hazard. Now you clearly understand the risks of working at height. Now let's talk about the control measures for working at height. The first and most important point is, wherever possible you should avoid working at height. For example, if you are using a ladder and reaching up to 2 meters height to do some work, ask yourself, can this work be done from ground level? If you have a tool that can reach up to that height, then you can stay on the ground and complete the work safely. In this way, you can completely avoid the hazards of working at height. Next, if possible, instead of using a ladder, you should use a proper working platform. This helps reduce the risks associated with working at height. Also, whenever you are working at height, make sure that guardrails are installed. Always use a safety harness and ensure proper supervision at the work site. One important thing you must always remember, whenever we talk about control measures, we must follow the hierarchy of controls. As we discussed earlier, there are five levels in the hierarchy of controls. First is eliminations, which means removing the hazards completely. For examples, avoiding working at height itself. Then comes substitutions, engineering controls, administrative controls, and finally PP. So always follow these hierarchy while selecting control measures. Now let's talk about the safe use of ladders. Ladders are very commonly used, but if not used properly, they can become very dangerous. Common hazards include ladder slipping, overreaching, and using the ladder at the wrong angle. Now, what are the safe practices? The ladder must be placed on a stable surface. You should maintain a 75-degree angle. The top and bottom of the ladder must be secure. Do not overreach while working, and always maintain 3-point contact while climbing or descending. Now let's move to the next topic, which is falling object. When work is happening at height, there is always a risk of falling object. This includes tools falling, materials falling, or debris falling. Let's understand with an examples. Work is happening at height and the worker is standing below without wearing a helmet. Suddenly a tool falls from above and hits the worker, causing injury. This is an example of a falling object hazard. Now, how can we control these risks? We must ensure that toe boards are installed at height. We can install safety nets where there is a risk of objects falling. Tools must be properly secure. For example, a spanner used by the scaffolder should be tied with a rope or so that it does not fall. We should mark exclusion zones. This means marking areas where work at height is happening so that no one enters that zone, and always use safety helmets. Now let's move to the next topic, which is safe access and egress. Access means entry and egress means exit. Workers must have safe entry and exit at the workplace. This is very important. Especially during emergencies, safe exit is critical. If the exit is blocked, workers may get trapped and may not be able to escape. Common problems include blocked walkways, poor stairs, and slippery paths. This creates serious risks during emergencies. Now, what are the control measures? We must maintain clear walkways, proper stairs should be designed and provided, handrails should be installed, and emergency exit must always be kept clear. They should never be blocked. If emergencies are clear, workers can quickly escape and save their life. But if an emergency door is blocked, for example, during a fire, workers may not be able to exit and may get trapped. So always ensure that emergency exits are clean, clear, and free from any obstructions. In an emergency, this can save lives. Now let's talk about confined space. This is very important topic that you must clearly understand. So what is a confined space? A confined space is a place where entry and exit are limited, ventilation is poor, and a hazardous atmosphere may be present. Examples of confined spaces include tanks, silos, sewers, and pits. Now, why is a confined space dangerous? It is important to understand this. Inside a confined space, there can be a oxygen deficiency, there may be a toxic gases present. There is also a risk of fire or explosion. That is why confined spaces are very dangerous. Let's understand with a real example. A worker enters a tank without testing the atmosphere. As we know, a tank is a confined space. Before entering, proper air monitoring should be done. We should check whether hazardous gases are present, whether toxic gases are present, and whether oxygen level is safe. But in this case, the worker enters without testing. Due to low oxygen, the worker becomes unconscious. This is a clear example of a confined space hazard. Now let's talk about control measures for confined space. The first control measures is to avoid entry if possible. This means if the work can be done from outside, then do not enter the confined space. For example, you can use remote tools or perform cleaning from outside. If entry is avoided, the risk becomes zero. The second control measures is to implement a permit to work system. For confined space, permit system is very important. It ensures that risk assessment is done, atmospheric testing is complete, and all safety measures are in place. The third control measures is atmospheric testing. Before entry, testing is mandatory. We must check oxygen level, toxic gases and flammable gases. One important point to remember, safe oxygen level is approximately 20.9%. Next is ventilations. Proper ventilations must be ensured inside the confined space. Fresh air should be supplied, harmful gases should be removed. Next is PP and equipment. If oxygen is low, respirators should be used. Safety harness should be worn during confined space work. Gas detector should be used for continuous monitoring. Next is standby persons. There must always be a standby persons outside the confined space. In case of emergency, these persons will provide help. Next is emergency planning. A proper rescue plan must be ready. If a worker becomes unconscious or gets trapped, there should be a clean plan on how to rescue them. First aid must also be available. So all these are the important control measures for confined space. Now let's talk about lone working. Lone working is also a very important topic. So what is lone working? Lone working means when a worker is working alone without supervision, that called lone working. Examples include security guards, maintenance workers and night shift workers. Now what are the hazards in lone working? If a person is working alone, they may not get immediate help. In case of emergency, help may be delayed. Also, the level of stress increases. For example, if a worker is working alone and accidents happen, the help they receive will be delayed. Now, what are the control measures? We should provide a proper communication system. There should be regular checking of the worker, emergency contact system must be available and proper training should be given. Now let's talk about a sensitive but important topic, which is workplace violence. What is workplace violence? Workplace violence means any physical or verbal abuse at the workplace. Physical abuse includes pushing, fighting or physical attacks. Verbal abuse includes shouting or using abusive language. Examples include threats, harassment and physical attacks. Now what are the risk factors in this? If your job involves dealing with the public, and the risk is increases. If you are working alone or working at night shifts, the risk is higher. For example, while dealing with the public, there may be a chances of arguments or abusing behavior. Now what are the control measures? We should implement proper security system, install CCTV cameras, provide training on conflict management and clearly define reporting procedures. Always remember one important point, a safe workplace means both physical and mental safety of a person. Now let's move to the workplace transport safety. You may have heard about the road safety officer or traffic safety officer on site where there is a high vehicle movement. A dedicated safety person is assigned to control traffic and ensure safety of vehicles and equipments. Workplace transport safety focuses on how we can safely manage vehicles and equipment at the workplace. Now what are the common hazards? Vehicle collision can happen, vehicle may hit pedestrians, reversing accidents are very common. Now what are the control measures? There should be a separate routes for pedestrians and vehicles. These routes must be clearly marked, speed limit must be defined on site, proper signage should be installed, driver must be trained, mirrors and alarm should be used. For example, when a forklift is reversing, there must be a reverse alarm. Let's understand with an example. If a forklift reverses without an alarm and worker is standing behind, it can hit the worker. So how we can control this? Whenever a forklift is reversing, the alarm must sound so that nearby workers becomes alert. Now let's look at some vehicle safety rules. Always use a safety belt while driving, avoid overloading, do regular maintenance of vehicles, and only authorized persons with valid license should drive. Now we have completed element 8. Let's understand with a real life case study. In a warehouse, forklift operations were going on, but there were problems. There were no separate walkways for pedestrians and vehicles. There was no proper warning systems, and workers were not aware of safety practices. What happened? An accident occurred. A forklift was reversing and hit a worker because there was no reverse alarm. After the accident and investigations was conducted, it was found that there was no traffic management plan, no training was given, and there were no proper signages. After the investigations, corrective actions were taken. Separate routes were created for pedestrians and vehicles, warning alarm were installed, and training was provided to all workers. As a result, accidents were significantly reduced. Now let's move to the exam practice questions. If you have watched this video till here, check what you have learned from this video. First questions, what are the causes of slip, trips and falls? Second questions, what control measures can be taken for working at height? Third questions, what is confined space and what are its control measures? Fourth questions, what are the hazards of workplace transport? Whenever you write answers in exams, remember one important thing, do not just write definitions, always explain your answer with proper explanations and examples. Only then you will get full marks. So today we have completed element 8. The focus of this element was general workplace issues. These may look simple, but they are major causes of accidents. If you identify hazards, apply proper controls and train workers, you can prevent accidents. Always remember, safety is not only about a complex system, even small daily controls can save lives. And lastly, if you have not yet downloaded our NEBOSH IGC ebook, you can find the link in the descriptions. You can also download ebooks for IOSH, OSHA, ASP, CSP or NEBOSH Diploma if you are preparing for them. That's all for today. See you in the next video with a new topic. Till then, take care. Bye bye.